What's up, guys? It's your boy Mo, and we back with another video. This one got me a little excited because this is a video that I've been wanting to look at for a very long time. I like to research stuff about the past and all that type of stuff, futuristic, all that type of stuff. That's the type of person I am. But anyways, today we'll be back to a video called 2010 Aesthetic Was Weird, right? By Extra Mint. Now, I don't know what they expect from this video, but the 2010s had to be one of my favorite moments of life. Everybody know this, bro. Yo, if you was alive during the 2010 era, bro, everything was just way better. And especially the early 2000s, like 2009, 2008, everything was way better during that time, and nobody can tell you it wasn't. It's definitely way better than today, bro. Like, real shit, anything past, like, 2019 was ass. But no further ado, let's get into the video.
Early 2000s older brother core.
Do these images mean anything to you? Perhaps they're oddly familiar, nostalgic. Maybe they bring up some distant childhood memory of playing for hours as player 2. If so, you aren't alone. Older brother core has exploded recently and is pretty much inescapable online. But as I tried to find out why, things got even weirder. I uncovered some of the strangest trends and aesthetics from the 2010s that you've either forgotten about or wish you didn't remember. Starting off with galaxy fits. If you made a Venn diagram comparing someone who used to wear these and someone with 3 of these, it'd just be a circle. Except for this guy, we'll put him somewhere over here. You'd find these kinds of clothes everywhere online, printed onto cheap hoodies from sites like Amazon.
Yo, speaking of galaxy fits, bro, I feel like this shit was actually like, I don't think I ever seen nobody with that just in real time. Probably like on Roblox and shit like that, but that's different. You know what I mean? Like, you would see stuff that's basically galaxy based on Roblox. That's what I'm saying. But yeah,
Amazon and Alibaba. And they haven't gone away or anything. In fact, the combination of AI and dropshipping today has yielded promising results. But while it's more of an ironic thing now, that wasn't the case in 2013. Galaxy print leggings, shirts, shoes, phone cases, nothing was safe. At the time though, it was relatively tame, especially compared to another movement called swag. The Zendaya hat theory. A series of conspiracies surrounding the mysterious appearance of a comically sized hat in 2014. Some suggest that Tom Holland lives inside it, hence why you've never seen him and it in the same room. Others believe that, combined with the more recent appearance of a white hat, it symbolizes yin and yang. That Zendaya is composed of 2 distinct personalities, or entities. I believe this to be true. On one hand, you have the famous actor and personality, and on the other, Zendaya's swag era. Outside of these interesting photos, many others fell victim to the swag era, posing in denim, colourful t-shirts and flat caps. The look first appeared in the late 2000s and was heavily tied to things like jerk music. It's actually had a mini revival more recently, with artists like Xavier So Based and Fresh Boy Swag taking clear inspiration from the fashion. I'd say that overall, it's looked back on pretty fondly. It encouraged people to express themselves and really get experimental. Unfortunately, that isn't true for every fashion trend in the 2010s. What you're looking at here is an endangered species. The urban lumberjack hipster barista guy from 2012. Once upon a time, you could spot them on every street corner. A handful of beard wax, an open MacBook to their right, and a coffee to their left. Other identifying features were beanies, flannels, and suspenders. Those that pushed through the 2010s can still be found today if you're lucky. Usually wearing a wry smile as they charge you $40 for a cheeseburger. I've seen people point out that this look was kind of the precursor to safe sleazy. Being a much more modern cryptid, I won't go into too much detail on that yet, but I'm willing to bet that you, or someone you love, has run into one of these creatures before. Anyway, this video wouldn't be complete if I didn't mention hypebeasts. This was, far and away, the most expensive fashion trend of the decade. From Off-White to Supreme, people were reselling branded sneakers and even branded bricks for thousands. This was different to swag, which was accessible to pretty much anyone. Here, the focus was solely solely on brands and how prominently you could display their logos. The staying power of streetwear companies like Supreme was so strong that people could build their entire careers around them. I mean, in no other environment could a song called Gucci Gang get 1 billion views. Regardless, almost all of these outfits were ruined by the use of skinny, ripped jeans. When combined with a baggy hoodie, you instantly nerfed yourself and developed bizarre, childlike proportions. The resurgence of large, baggy jeans today seems like a direct retaliation against the founding principles of the hypebeast. With that being said, let's talk about why baggy jeans are back.
They about to come back.
I'm sure this doesn't come as a shock to you, but older brother core isn't the only thing with core slapped at the end of it. Clean core, cottage core. I was going to say meat core as a joke, but that's also a thing. I've always found this phenomenon really interesting. On one hand, it's useful for categorizing and searching up niche aesthetics, but on the other hand, you have people blogging about raw meat. So where did this whole core thing start? Well, the term itself comes from the hardcore punk genre of the 80s. It eventually expanded to various other movements such as grindcore and thrashcore. Over the following decades, core became shorthand for any cohesive aesthetic, mood, or subculture. It wasn't just limited to music. And that's how we arrived at older brother core. Photographs of gaming setups from the 2000s and 2010s, advertisements, and fridges full of Monster energy drinks. You'll see these presented on TikTok and Instagram as slideshows paired with melancholic guitar riffs. Or maybe it's just a video of some 16-year-old wearing jorts and a tap-out t-shirt. After all, the fashion side of it has become just as big. At its core is the revival of skate and streetwear brands from the 2000s. Jinko jeans, Spitfire, those chunky DC shoes, basically just a custom character from Tony Hawk's Underground, if you took away the skateboard and gave them a link tree and a mango vape. But what is it about these images that's so powerful? 20 years ago, you'd say the smell, but it's something else. It also got me wondering, what would be the modern equivalent of older brother core?
Unboxing up, boys, let's go!
What?
Get out, I'm practicing!
What's that?
They're action figures, okay? Don't touch them,
Bro,
they're
this
used.
better not be
Why
it,
is
bro. This
Pikachu
better not
on
be
the
one of your
job?
little ads, bro.
You want answers? Try this.
Or your sponsors, actually.
Here,
My fault.
caffeine, zero sugar,
sponsors.
40 cents per serve. I could take this.
These photos capture a very specific vibe from a time period that's already nostalgic to a lot of people. It's the experience of peeking into your older brother's room and being almost mystified by the stuff inside. A console you were rarely allowed to play. Instruments you weren't allowed to touch. The photos themselves add another layer, taken with grainy digital cameras that reveal the dusty haze of freshly punched drywall, or even freshly punched cones. I'm not surprised so many people have resonated with this aesthetic, because it's so universal. Growing up in the 2000s and early 2010s, you definitely knew someone that fit the older brother core archetype. A room full of new
Bro, I miss them old phones these
skateboards and a 360 running nothing but Halo 3 and Black Ops. As you might expect, certain foods are associated with the look. You've got big hitters like Doritos and Burger King, combined with drinks like Mountain Dew and Monsters. You can't just grab these today and call it older brother core though. Products had a certain look back then that has all but disappeared. I'm talking about the Halo 3 Burger King meal, Doritos packets with the heart rate monitor, Guitar Hero Slurpees. 2010 was the last time you could look cool drinking Mountain Dew, apart from maybe a few months in 2014. I'm interested to hear what you guys think about the whole older brother core thing. Are these outfits a red flag? Do you relate to it at all? Either way, not every 2010's aesthetic is as universal.
Bro,
Pool core, which describes
that's the back room,
photos
my
of
nigga.
pools. As an offshoot of liminal spaces though, it isn't as simple as just taking a photo of your pool. It needs to have an unsettling, eerie atmosphere. Almost.
Now, you know what the crazy part is about backrooms, gang? I feel like every single one of us when we was younger, like during that little 5-ish, 3 type little span, we all had a weird ass dream that was similar to that. It was like you was walking through a crazy ass place and it was just endless and you feel like you couldn't wake up, and then boom, you just woke up out of nowhere, just like out of pure strength. But that shit was so crazy. Like, our minds was really weird when we was just now starting life like years ago, bro. No bullshit.
It's like you've come across it in a dream.
I had one of them dreams before. It might have not been y'all, but me.
Jared Pike's dream pools.
That's why that shit felt a little eerie to me.
Renders that many say produce feelings of dread and uneasiness. A lot of this comes from the fact that they never show you the full picture. There's always a corner or a hallway that trails off into the unknown, contributing to the sense of unease and mystery. This effect has been so strong that people have gone on to make entire games about it, set in the same endless rooms. Since we're on the topic of video games though, let's talk about it. Now, I never thought there was anything special about how games looked in the 2010s. We didn't really have an equivalent to the iconic low poly look from the 90s and 2000s, or the pixelated titles from the 80s. I was, of course, wrong, and it turns out the decade had its own set of bizarre visual trends, an entire video's worth, in fact. But for now, I've picked out my personal favourites, some of the best and some of the worst. Whether you played Jet Set Radio in the 2000s or more recent games inspired by it, you're likely aware of Shibuya Punk. Also known as grind fiction, it describes a wide variety of video games featuring graffiti, inline skating and skateboarding. You'll see a lot of vibrant colours, neon-lit urban settings and street culture. While it started in the early 2000s, it experienced a revival in the 2010s and is still going strong today. But unlike any other styles in this video, it's tied to a very specific location, one that deeply influenced the genre and helped create its cult-like following. To truly understand how this happened, I needed to see it for myself.
This nigga just traveled to Japan, bro.
These streets were the inspiration behind Jet Set Radio, the pioneer of grind fiction. Set in a vast, chaotic metropolis, you play as members of a graffiti gang, fighting back against authorities and rivals as you expand your territory. The game was unique, not just for its cel-shaded graphics, but also its locations and fashion. Take, for instance, Shibuya-cho, one of the game's 3 main districts. It shares many similarities with the aesthetic's namesake, and my first stop. Shibuya is widely considered the heart of Tokyo. Its vibrant and social nature make it a melting pot for fashion, music, and art. As a result, it's the perfect backdrop for a game like Persona 5. Released in 2016, it helped bring Shibuya Punk back into the spotlight. Just like Jet Set Radio, you're dropped into a colourful urban setting, overlaid with a dynamic, punk-inspired UI. Persona does a great job channeling the energy of its real-world counterparts. The busyness of Shibuya Crossing, its tightly packed side streets. But Shibuya isn't the only inspiration for the genre, nor is it the only place featured in Persona 5. After all, grind fiction has a rebellious, edgy undertone that can only be found in Shinjuku.
Extra mint inside of Mint Collectibles.
Housing Tokyo's red light district and a booming nightlife, Shinjuku's atmosphere is completely different. There's an overwhelming amount of ads and billboards, lit by thousands of neon lights. Its chaotic influence became even clearer as the aesthetic re-emerged in the 2010s. Look no further than Inkopolis from Splatoon. Locations like the Plaza and Inkopolis Square feature the same energetic displays of lights and advertising. The gameplay echoes Shibuya Punk's elements even more, focusing on streetwear, youth culture, and colourful self-expression. The spray can is replaced by an ink shooter, but the premise is the same. It was awesome to walk around Tokyo and spot the similarities between these games.
I don't know about this fucking game right
Even better though, Shibuya Punk didn't go anywhere.
But you know what I'm waiting for us to get to? I'm waiting for us to get to the part where they talk about Super Mario that was on the DS and shit. Man, that was the best
just as
fucking
timeless
era,
as
bro.
Jet Set Radio. Oh, and Jet Set Radio is getting a reboot soon. If we're talking about grind fiction though, we have to talk about Fruitiga Metro, and why it's also making a comeback. In the early 2010s, Metro was extremely popular in music, gaming, and
Bro, if you
all
don't
sorts
include
of
Super
other
Mario in
media.
this video, bro, I'm
Featuring glossy
mad.
vector graphics and
Sorry,
patterns,
bro.
there was a lot of overlap between it and Shibuya Punk. But Metro was even more widespread, meaning there's a ton of things you'd recognize it from, like Just Dance 3 and 4. From their menus to dances, both share the same colourful aesthetic. There's fluid shapes and flourishes in the
Damn, so when
background
did
that
Dance
nicely
Central come out?
complement the series' atmosphere. People have
'Cause,
described
like,
this look as a subgenre of Fruitiga Metro.
I'm
called
gonna search that
Musica
shit up.
Metro. It's a lot.
You guys pause this job. Okay, so let me see. Okay, so let's type. Why the fuck is Uber Eats on the thing? Okay. Okay, so it says November 10th. It says November 4th, 2010. That's when Dance Central came out. So that's crazy. I'm gonna keep it a bean. I feel like Dance Central is better than any of these little just dance joints.
softer than the other examples we'll cover, and uses more pastels and unsurprisingly,
That might be just my opinion though,
music-related
because
icons. For the most part though, when
you know,
people
I actually
reference
had, like,
Rudiger
really fun
Metro, they
moments
mean
with the
stuff
game,
like
you know
this.
what I mean?
Any design with these
Like,
maximalist 2D patterns. The gaming series I see
yes,
mentioned the most
he
is
finally
Little
mentioned
Big
Little Planet, but I'm
Looking at
telling
the
you, bro,
box
me and my
art
little
and
brothers, the
promotional
plays doing
material
that,
for the
bro.
three games, you can
Especially
see
the first
why.
one for the
Explosions
PS3.
of abstract shape.
Oh my god, bro, we stayed on that joint in 2019 or 2018 too, bro.
Peppered with various items and instruments. Alongside Domo, Sackboy has become the aesthetics mascot. Now, when Metro emerged in the late 2000s, it was kind of the edgy older
Yo,
brother.
I'm gonna give it to me. I really wish this YouTube channel that I had right now was up back then. I would have definitely played all these games for y'all if I had the same type of energy, if I had the same type of equipment. Like, bro, I would have been vlog recording videos for y'all, and then every time I wanted to feel some nostalgic shit, I would have looked back at my videos.
Era.
Like,
it catered to a
damn,
younger audience.
this some
and
shit I
sold
should have
them
really
on the
recorded,
idea
bro.
that this was what being a teenager felt like. Naturally, those kids grew up and still thought it looked cool. And to be honest, they proved that it still does. Sitting at over 1.4 million views, Romance Planet's Fall from the Sky
Who the
music
fuck
video
is this nigga?
shot entirely in the style. It's even capped at
Man, hell
360p.
nah.
Pink Pantheress, with a more mainstream influence, has also drawn
Wearing that
from the
fucking
aesthetic.
bullshit,
The
man.
Illegal music video features shots that mirror the iPod Shuffle commercials. And Nice to Meet You has the same pastel flourishes as Musica Metro. But not everything can be colourful and upbeat. Gaming in the 2010s was plagued by an issue that affected countless titles. There's a good chance you hated this trend at the time, but we'll see. Let me reintroduce you to the infamous piss filter. Sometimes green if the devs had eaten asparagus, but mostly an all-consuming yellow. The weirdest thing is, I didn't even notice it at the time. I just accepted it as the look for shooters and racing games. Now that my brain is developed, I can tell that the sky isn't normally yellow, but this revelation hasn't stopped me from enjoying these titles. Why? Because it was applied to some of the best games of all time. Fallout New Vegas, Deus Ex 3, Grand Theft Auto 4. With that being said, have a look at them without the filter. Here's the Mojave Wasteland as 2010 intended, and here it is with the tint removed. Deus Ex 3 is even
That look
more
way better.
noticeable. In fact, it's the reason the term even exists. Within a few months of its release, an article drops detailing a mod that, quote, enhances graphics.
I just want to move this camera back a little bit.
In fairness, the original game is
like
best described as severely dehydrated. As far as I'm aware, it was easily the yellowest, but please challenge me on that in the comments. I'm sure there's way worse out there. Anyway, there's a valid argument to be made here in support of the PP filter, that being its contributions to a game's atmosphere. Like, it definitely works in a post-apocalyptic environment like Fallout. Fallout 3 felt like you were perpetually stuck in a rad storm. There's a sickly green hue that hangs over everything, making your surroundings feel contaminated, or rather, irradiated. Kind of like early Chris Chan videos. Not everyone has this as an out though, as many games only used it to mask lighting limitations or just jump on the trend. It was a quick way to convey that your title was gritty and serious. Call of Duty achieves a similar thing today with its item shop. Something strange happened in the 2010s. While most of the corporate world moved away from the experimental design, marketing, and aesthetics of the 2000s, we saw a revival of several styles from the past. And weirdly enough, this hasn't been without controversy. Take Vector Heart, for example. Many of you will recognize this style from the box art of the Wipeout games. It's a futuristic, striking aesthetic with sharp angles and abstract shapes. While it first appeared way back in the 90s, it saw a modest return in the 2010s, especially in gaming. Several logos and interfaces drew obvious inspiration from the style. Unfortunately, jumping forward to today, one company would take a bit too much inspiration. Now, when I first saw Bungie's Marathon reboot, I was pretty excited. It had the vibrant look of Mirror's Edge, coupled with environments and graphics that echoed the principles of Vector Heart. To me, it seems like an evolution of its 2010s resurgence, and it was, but not for the right reasons. Fernhook, a graphic designer from Scotland, noticed some suspicious similarities between her 2017 artwork and several of the game's environments. Similarities really isn't the right word though, because it was just copy and paste. While most of the game's assets were made internally, this didn't go down well. I feel like this happens a lot now. A big studio hints at a return to form or some innovative new style, but can't pull it off without heavily relying on nostalgia or just outright borrowing from someone else's work. But enough about vector art, because you've definitely seen these images before. And no, this isn't free-to-get era. Solarpunk gained traction in the 2010s and
Nah, I
shares a
definitely was.
similar
I knew that
focus
came from
on
a
an
game.
idealized
That's just what they made it like.
In other words, what society would be like if everyone hit subscribe. It emerged as an alternative take on the futuristic city, and it still kind of is. Just look at Wild Robot from 2024. The whole premise revolves...
Now, I'm gonna keep it a being, y'all. The more you realize it, like, as we getting older, I'm gonna keep it a being with you like this. The shit we thought the future was gonna look like back then, it don't look like nothing similar. Because y'all gotta realize, if you was literally making everything look like this, it had to be more like it look like, y'all know how they make houses and shit and all that. It gotta be more minerals invented, like different minerals, rocks and shit like that. You cannot make everything look futuristic. I'm gonna be real with you. Like, our shit still look like the 90s. How many years are we into the future now? We only got phones, tablets, computers, shit like that. If you think about it, we remove all that, bro, this is basically the 90s and 2000s all over again.
Around nature and technology coexisting harmoniously, reflected in both the characters and environments. In the 2010s, you could see this in Black Panther and various other movies set in the near future. At the heart of Solarpunk is architecture that integrates nature, foliage wrapping around skyscrapers, expansive
I ain't
grassy
even gonna lie,
plains
see, I feel
covered
like
in solar
futuristic
panels.
shit,
The name
like,
being a
give
spin-off
off
of
alien
Cyberpunk
vibes.
isn't a coincidence.
The world
Many
will kinda
characterize it
never
as a
look like
direct
that.
response to Cyberpunk's darker and heavily
That's too
commercialized
fucking...
tone.
I
I'm
don't
curious
know.
though, would you rather live here, or do you think Solarpunk is the way to go? Speaking of cool, futuristic aesthetics from the 2010s, Dwarfing. It's a little more obscure, but depending on what video games you've played, there's a good chance you've seen it before. It describes a design style dominated by abstract shapes and technology, soft white backdrops, and above all else, the colour orange. A great example is the Hexbug toy line. They looked delicious, they were delicious. You'd find Dorfic on ads too, and even UI. Look back at the eShop, when Nintendo's consoles were still colourful. It shares the same futuristic, glossy arrangement of gradients and shapes, and again, it's mostly orange. As far as games go, you probably saw it coming, but Mirror's Edge. The game as a whole has one of the cleanest art styles of all time. Even today, it's hard to believe the original came out way back in 2008. As you explore, you'll run into plenty of offices that have adopted the look. Bright orange interiors and slick architecture. Jelly Jump and Super Hot are other examples, having the same sterile white environments and orange accents. All in all, the Dorfic aesthetic held out until around 2016, as companies began committing to flat minimalism. Vaporwave is one of the coolest aesthetics the internet has ever made.
So y'all, why did the chair come while we was recording? That's crazy. I'm about to show y'all. Wait. So y'all, look. This is crazy right here, bro. I'm about to unbox this, yo. I ain't even gonna lie to you. We 100% gonna finish this video first.
Starting in the early 2010s as a music genre, its unique retro-futuristic visuals quickly took on a life of their own. Video games, YouTube intros, album covers. Its visuals were oddly soothing and dreamlike, with elements layered over pink sunsets and endless grids. Drawing from the 80s and 90s, you'd often see old computer pop-ups, statues and brands. But where did Vaporwave come from? Is it possible to track such a huge movement down to a single song or image? Maybe, but it's complicated.
Like, it's
On July
exposed.
20th, 2009, a YouTube user called Sunset Corp posted a 2-minute long track titled Nobody Here. The song itself was relatively simple, a slowed down sample of an 80s pop song. But when paired with the visuals, it became something more. In the foreground is a grainy loop of a twisting rainbow road, layered over footage of the New York skyline. It creates a surreal, almost hypnotic viewing experience, which is reflected in the comments. They're filled with people feeling nostalgic for an era they never lived through. I'd say this phenomenon is the reason Vaporwave eventually exploded. People have called it anemoia, defined as longing for a time you never experienced. Vaporwave tapped into this feeling with a reimagined vision of the past, laid under irony and low-fidelity jazz. The funny thing is though, the creator of Nobody Here didn't intend to kickstart an entire genre. The song just happens to perfectly capture all of its themes, in the visuals, music, and even the channel name. While earlier earlier tracks undoubtedly fit the sound, nobody here helped shape Vaporwave into both a visual and auditory medium. Let me know which of these aesthetics you'd bring back and which you
we gotta
believe
put this
in the
together.
2010s.
Damn.
Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
Shit. Well, y'all, I ain't gonna lie, y'all. I really enjoyed this video. And I think I'm gonna watch more of his shit too. I'm not even gonna lie. Cause he got another one called Why Did the 2010s Look Like That? I'm about to react to that for y'all in a couple minutes. But first of all, let me end this video, and I'm about to get to unboxing the gaming chair and shit. And yeah, we bipping.